So if we could have your name, sir.
Roger Crisp.
And how old are you, Roger, today?
I am 61 and a half.
You're looking pretty good for 61 and a half.
Cheers, mate.
First surfboard. Can you remember what make it was?
The first actual surfboard was my first one was a paddle ski.
A paddle ski. Oh yeah.
Paddle ski, and that was like a teardrop shape with a pintail.
Yep.
Didn't have a fin on it. It was an actual paddle board.
So was that a timber?
Timber, yeah.
Yep,
Square rails. It was all square.
Yep. Yep.
My old man helped me to make a fin, and we screwed and glued that onto it.
Yeah. So you bought that off a surf pub guy or something that did?
Yeah, I can't remember where it came from.
Yep,
We bought it.
Yeah.
I'd actually that would have been 1964.
Yeah.
And we'd been down to the Mount for the family holiday. I was 13, going on 14.
Yeah.
And we'd hired a surfboard at the Mount.
Yeah.
And I had to go on it, and I've actually still got a photo of that.
Yeah.
So it's the first time I stood up on a surfboard.
Yeah.
And that was me. I was hooked.
Yeah.
So
that
we
was
came back. So I had a paper round. We were living in the East Coast Bays in Auckland.
Yeah.
And I saved up enough money to buy this surf ski, which I can't remember what we paid for it.
Yeah.
£5 or whatever it was in those days.
Yeah.
And so that's what I learned to surf on.
So you haven't got it now in your garage?
No, long gone. Long gone, yes.
So you started surfing at the Mount, but where were you?
Well, that was the first,
yeah. And you were living in Auckland, or?
Living in Auckland, living in the East Coast Bays, so Rothsay Bay.
So where did you got home and what, eventually bought your own surfboard somewhere, or what did you do?
We got that. We got the paddle board.
Yeah.
And then I had that for probably a year, if I remember.
Yeah.
And then I bought an Atlas Woods, a big old Atlas Woods.
Yeah.
And learned more on that. Painted feet on it. It was bright orange. Painted some feet that went up to the nose and hung 10 and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was it for the next year or so, and then slowly I got more into it.
So where did you surf in those days? Did you rely on
Rothsay
friends
Bay.
or? Yeah.
So I was, like I say, I was 14 or 15. So it was just when there was an onshore wind like there is today, you could go down and it would probably be a foot or two, and big enough to carry a little light fellow like me.
So did you have what did you use in winter when you were surfing? And did you have rugby jersey or?
Yeah, rugby jersey and shorts.
Yeah.
And then they brought out some cheap wetsuits. Wetsuits were very expensive.
Yeah.
Neoprene ones. Well, they were just being developed really.
Yeah.
In California, they had the old ones with the tails on. They were actually a half a dive suit, and that's what the guys used there. But then there was some crowd brought out like a nylon mesh type wetsuit. It was quite a thick thing, and I bought, well, my parents bought one of those for me.
Yeah.
But no, tough in those days, mate.
It didn't feel the cold, eh? Not these ones today.
Go down there for 2 or 3 hours surfing in the after school or on the weekend, and then run back up the hill to the house to keep warm.
So you weren't far from the beach at all?
No.
Yeah.
No, like 100 metres.
Yeah. So you're surfing most weekends or?
Surfing every available moment, really.
Yep.
Go down there when it was dead flat and maybe take the boards out for a paddle.
Yep.
I used to leave my board. There was one of my mates, they had a house virtually on the beach.
Yep.
So we all used to leave our boards, all us boys would leave the girls, leave the boards under the house, and so we could just go down there, grab the board, out in the water.
Do you know why there was such a craze in surfing, and that it was just like everyone seemed to be into it? It was just I don't know if it was a new thing. It just was that exciting sort of a thing. It was just.
I suppose it was. It was against the norm. So you had your ordinary sport, your your soccer and cricket, which I used to partake in, and rugby. And but then surfing was sort of a off the wall type thing, and a lot of young people were into it.
Yeah, it was just hard to explain, isn't it? Yeah.
And around that time, you had like the Beach Boys were coming on.
Yeah.
And you had a movie, Gidget, I think it was called, and then I remember it would have been about 66, 67. They had the first regular weekly surf program on the TV, and I mean that created a lot of interest.
Yeah.
It was all America and places like Rincon
and
whatever, Steamer Lane. I remember seeing big waves of Steamer Lane.
I remember watching that guy at Steamer Lane on like a boogie board or something. Some guy was getting hell rides. I can't remember his name. Any weird, funny? What's the stupidest thing you've seen out in the surf? Something that's really crazy. Does anything stand out or?
Not really. No, I've seen a lot of yeah, a lot of odd things really, and
Yeah.
tragic things, and
Yeah.
and highly amusing things.
Been
People
dropped
getting
in on by.
pitched out. And,
Yeah. All right. Best surfboard you've ever had? Anyone that really stands out? You've probably had dozens, I know. But
yeah, I had dozens and dozens.
Is there one that you
Years
really...
ago, and I was surfing competitively, and I had one that was made by Peter Way in Auckland,
Yeah.
and I was living up here then.
Yeah.
But he used to provide me surfboards, and there was one in particular which was wonderful.
Yeah.
And I surfed it all over Northland, all over New Zealand really, took it to Australia.
Yeah.
And then I was surfing Wananaki one day, good swell, 5 or 6 feet, and it snapped in half, didn't have any stringers in it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it was very lightweight,
Yeah,
incredibly
yeah.
lightweight.
Yeah.
And snapped in half, that was the end of that. But,
So is it starting to get like to a short board thing?
yeah, that was short.
Yeah.
So I think that was like 6'2".
Yeah.
Double end pintail,
Yeah.
single fin.
So you said you
Right.
surf competitively. That was within New Zealand on the sort of the New Zealand nationals and that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
nationals, yeah.
Yeah.
Surfed a lot in the nationals from
Yeah.
about 68, I think was the first time.
Yeah.
I was a junior.
Was that at Gisborne or where was that one?
Taranaki.
Taranaki. How'd you get on with that one?
I can't remember really.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I got through a couple of rounds in the juniors,
Yeah.
and that was it.
Yeah.
Surfing a place, Waiwakaio,
Yeah.
and beautiful waves.
Yeah.
Magnificent waves.
So is that Mel and you guys all went down? Was that after that?
No, this was before I met Mal.
Oh yeah.
Actually, that was when I was still living in Auckland.
Yeah.
So I was part of the Auckland team.
Yeah.
They'd had trials and that sort of thing, and I was part of the Auckland juniors.
So how did
went down there?
how did you end up in Whangarei? Can I ask that?
Well, we used to come up surfing up here all the time because
Yeah.
out of Auckland you surf PR, Muriwai, Maori Bay.
Yeah.
But most of the time we go to places like Te Aari and Waipu,
Yeah.
and then we started discovering Pātea,
Yeah.
Pātea North, Wananaki. So we spent a lot of time up here.
Yeah.
Eventually I met a girl up here,
Yeah.
and and
That was
went
it.
from there. That was it, pretty much.
Yeah.
I went to Australia in 1970, and I was still based in Auckland. Then we came back from Aussie after the winter spent over there, and started Super Session surfboards up here. So
Yeah.
we moved up here.
Yeah.
Myself, Graham Gantley, Graham Allen, Dave Leach,
Yeah.
and we started making Super Session surfboards, and that was it. I've been up here ever since.
So where did you make those boards? In someone's...
In Albert Street. No, we did it properly. We rented a property, a rundown old house which is long gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were pretty popular Super
Yeah,
Sessions
yeah,
at the
yeah.
time. They were the cutting edge technology, I suppose.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Did a lot of twin fins. Graham Allen, initially Graham Gantley was the shaper.
Yeah.
Graham tended to be a bit of a loose cannon anyway. He took off somewhere, and Graham Allen took over and became one of New Zealand's best shapers.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah.
And it was around then we were into the twin fins and bonzas.
Yeah. Yeah.
We made a lot of bonza surfboards. There's still a few around.
Well,
Dave Scullen's got one.
a lot of the shapes that they're making now, they tend to be new, but they're not. They're just old shapes that have been revamped, aren't they, when
That's
you think
it.
about it, and a different name, so haven't really
Yeah.
changed a lot. So
And we had a core of good surfers from Whangarei, like the Johnny
Yeah.
Aitons and
yeah.
Smarty and guys like that. And
Yeah.
they'd all go overseas, come back with the latest designs, so we'd make the
Yeah.
latest designs. And I went overseas. I spent 6 months up in Hawaii and California and brought back their designs.
So your designs were right up there with
Yeah.
sort of standard,
They
really.
were.
weren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, the quality probably wasn't quite there, but that improved as
Yeah,
time went on.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So what happened to you guys keep on making surfboards? So I know you ended up with a nice surf shop in town. So
Yeah, we
how did
did.
that all come about?
Well, we did Super Session, and then we sort of parted our ways. Like I say,
Yeah,
I went to the States, and Graham Allen went back to Auckland,
yeah,
and he continued with Super Session down there,
yeah,
and built it up into quite a big business.
yeah.
So I came back from the States in '72, and thought it was about time I knuckled down and got some work. I had a wife then and children on the way, so
Yeah.
I worked for Northern Building Society for 2
Oh,
or 3
yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And decided that wasn't me really. I didn't like being stuck in the office all day, so I left there and opened first surf shop in Whangarei. Well, I think it was the first one. Sticks
First
and
real
Threads
surf.
it was called.
Yeah, yeah,
And so we sold clothing, surfboards, wetsuits, that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
yeah.
Nothing like as mainstream as it is now.
No.
That was opposite, in a little shop opposite where McDonald's is in Bank Street.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so that was, that provided an income for a few years. That was
Yeah.
quite good.
And then you moved downtown to the beach hut.
Yeah, the beach hut came later.
Yeah.
And that was a much bigger by then. It was starting to get more mainstream.
Yeah,
But then that suffered that was through the 70s.
mm.
And at that stage I was going overseas a lot. I was an international judge for competitions, that sort of thing.
yeah,
So, and then in the 80s or late 70s, we had a bit of a recession.
So a lot of people went to Aussie then, didn't it? Sort
Yeah,
of,
and that was a hard time, and then
Yeah.
again we had to close.
yeah. It was a brilliant shop. I know my kids.
That was fun.
If they,
Yeah.
most kids, if they were into surfing, they went to town. They just want to go for a look and hang out, didn't
Yeah,
they?
they
And-
did.
Yeah. And so tell me about
And that was the era that we sort of created that. We had a back room where we had old surfboards, a bit like you've got in the shed.
Yeah,
A lot of old surfboards, a lot of photos, and people would just come in and hang out,
and look and dream and
talk about surfing and
Yeah.
who'd been where and
Yeah.
what was going on, that sort of thing.
Come
It was
on.
great.
Yeah.
We had a good hardcore. There's 4 or 5 guys and girls worked for us, and
Yeah,
they were into it too. So it was wonderful.
yeah, it was
Good time.
great shop. Now tell me about your judging. How did you get into that? I know you would have probably judged locally. Did you do any
Yeah, I
courses?
did judge locally and
Yeah.
nationally. I still competed,
Yeah,
and then I got invited to do a competition called the Stubbies on the Gold Coast,
yeah,
and went over there and proved I had the right stuff.
yeah, yeah,
And from there I did for about 3 or 4 years, I suppose.
Yeah.
I did most of the contests in Australia.
yeah.
Went to Hawaii, went to World Amateur Champs.
So they would
there.
pay for your fares to go
Yeah.
to places like that?
Yeah,
That's
it was
brilliant.
like
Yeah,
semi-professional, I
Yeah,
suppose.
yeah.
I mean, you didn't make money, but
yeah,
it didn't cost you anything
yeah.
either.
And you saw a
They
bit
give
of the
you a
world.
car and they give
Yeah.
you an apartment while the contest was
Yeah,
on, that sort of thing.
So the world circuit really was just sort of starting then?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh
So-
yes, international surfing
So what some of the,
professionals.
you would have met some great surfers in that time.
Oh,
Can you
yeah.
think, name a couple of for us that people might know?
Mark Richards was probably
Yeah.
the most impressive surfer around that time. That was
Yeah.
late 70s, early 80s.
So was he a really standout from the others?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember judging him at one stage in Australia. There was 4 contests in Australia, and I judged him regularly in the heats. He never fell off
Yeah.
in a heat. He won 3 of those contests,
Yeah,
and I think he lost the final of the last one. I never saw him fall off,
Yeah,
and he was
yeah.
surfing to a very high standard.
yeah. That's
I
something.
mean, very good waves
Yeah.
from Burley Heads at 6 foot to Bells Beach at 10.
Yeah,
He just never fell off. He was
Yeah.
amazing.
because
Well, you had Rabbit Bartholomew. He was
Yeah.
a hard case,
Yeah,
good bugger.
yeah. Well,
Hanger Keynes,
Yeah.
Peter Townend.
he runs the world circuit now, doesn't he?
He
So,
does.
Yeah, yeah,
Rabbit's right up there. And
Yeah.
a bloody nice fella.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's brilliant, brilliant stuff. So those guys were sort of like your surf heroes. Could we say that, or yeah?
No, I don't. Well, to some extent, I suppose. They're
Yeah.
more like my peers. I wasn't much older than they were.
Yeah,
But I was involved on the judging side of it. My heroes would have been the likes of Wayne Parks, Alan Burns,
the New
the
Zealand
New
guys.
Zealand guys,
Yeah, yeah.
Michael Peterson. He was a legend in his day
Yeah, yeah,
for being, out there.
yeah.
Good surfer.
So in the early days, what sort
Nat
of
Young,
yeah,
classics
well,
like
everyone,
that. Midget
yeah,
Farrelly.
yeah, yeah,
So those were the guys when I was a young fella. They
Yeah.
were the guys I really looked
Yeah.
up to.
yeah, yeah. The oversized guys, overseas guys, were the ones that were all in the magazines. That you
Yeah,
read
well,
like
that's
that.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What sort of vehicle were you driving in those days? What was your first car?
Oh, my first car was a 1928 Austin 12.6.
12.6. Was
Now,
that
that
quite a
was
big
like
car, or
Quite a big car,
Yeah.
6-cylinder,
yeah,
12 horsepower, and the way they used to rate horsepower.
yeah, yeah,
And that was always, I did a lot of surfing, a lot of miles in that car.
yeah, yeah,
And I'd load it up with surfboards and surfers, and off we'd go. And I remember going, that was when I was in Auckland, I
Yeah.
was 15, 16. I remember going up to Waiwiri. We decided we'd go up to Waiwiri and go to the hot pools. So
Yeah.
we're going up the hill out of Orewa, and there's all these modern cars like Zephyrs and,
Yeah.
you know, pretty flash sort of vehicles, and we had the old Austin. And the old Austin would go so slow, so I'd slow it down purposely. We'd be in first gear, the engine would just be ticking over. We'd probably be doing about half a mile an hour. And we went up Orewa Hill, all these flash cars behind us, and 2 or 3 of them had to pull over because the engines were boiling.
Yeah.
They couldn't actually go as slow as we were going.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was a source of entertainment.
Sounds like quite good fun too. Yeah. Now, surf accidents. You had any surf accidents yourself that
Nothing.
you've been pretty lucky?
Yeah, pretty lucky. A few cuts and bruises and hit by fins and
Yeah.
bangs on the heads, but nothing tragic.
Have you had a favourite trip anywhere that you know you've gone on a surf trip, something that's just been fantastic that stands out, or you've had so many you can't really remember?
A lot of them, eh?
Yeah.
A lot of them. A lot of them in the in Australia.
Yeah.
Around the professional circuit. One year we were in Sydney for the Coca-Cola surf bout.
Yeah.
And there was no surf, so the people at Coca-Cola decided, well, we had to have this competition. So they hired about 10 small Cessnas, 6 and 8 seater Cessnas, piled all the surfers that were left in the competition and all the judges and what have you into the planes. We flew down to Bells, landed just inland from Bells.
Yeah.
The surf at Bells was 8 feet, absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
And we had a ball. We had a week there with just a small group of us.
Yeah. So you got in there and had a good surf too?
Had good surf. Yeah.
You
No,
probably should
magic. We were allowed to take our surf, but the judges were allowed to take their boards.
Yeah.
They said, no, you can't. And we protested.
Yeah.
In the end, they let us take our boards, so we just had a ball.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
So
and all expenses paid.
Yeah. So who was running that? That was an Aussie
A guy
surfing
called
Australia?
Yeah, Bill Bowman was the
Yeah.
sort of the captain of those days.
Yeah.
And he was a bloody good guy.
Yeah.
And a good organiser. And you had to start, I can't remember the names, you had to start a corporate involvement in surfing competitions.
Yeah.
So these guys were like high flyers at Coke and what have you.
Yeah.
So they were treating you like
Yeah.
professionals, not just a bunch of
So they were being putting money into the contest and
putting
that sort of
big
thing.
money in.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, for the time.
Yeah, it would have been big, yeah.
Yeah.
Favourite beach? What's the one?
Favourite beach?
Yeah. Locally that you tend, I know you've surfed around a lot around here.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere you like to go to and
I used to love Horror.
Horror Bar?
Horror Bar when it was nice and it was, in the old days, there generally weren't too many people there, so you're there on your own. That was really nice.
Yeah.
Partau in his heyday was
was
exceptional and everybody would meet there.
Yeah,
Wananaki.
yeah. Yeah, Wananaki's a lovely ride when it's
great.
so long
Yeah.
and it's. I think we're still very lucky up here that we don't get the crowds of surfers. Like
No, that's right.
you can go to Sandy Bay in summer and go early, and there'll only be 3 or 4 guys out, but by 11 it'll be crowded. But that's
that's right.
Um,
And Shippies, we used to go to Shippies a lot.
yeah.
And on the days, I remember days there where the whole thing was connecting up, big swell, it might have been 6, 7, 8 feet out of peaks, and it was connecting up all the way past the wreck.
Yeah.
So you could actually ride the wave all the way up.
Yeah. And what are you looking at?
And I was very, very fit in those days, and
Yeah.
but you get halfway down that point, and the old legs are starting to scream.
Till you go a long ride, you don't realise how tiring it is.
It's
You know?
a lot of cutbacks and what have you on it. So you're putting your body through a bit, and then paddling out against the rip afterwards.
Yeah, that can get horrible there
was
too.
horrific.
Yeah. What's a funny story that there must be something funny. People they stand on the side of the road and throw eggs at you or something like that while you're going surfing, or what's the stupidest scene you
We've
guys
had a
have
lot
done?
we used to have egg fights, was a big thing.
Yeah.
And,
Ambush the other guy or something.
Yeah. 2 or 3 cars involved, and stop at the local farmer's store and buy
By the
a couple
rock
of
ones.
dozen eggs and bloody, and then just ambush all the way back to Auckland or all the way up to Kaitaia or whatever.
Yeah. But it was
Pretty
good,
stupid stuff.
but it was good, clean fun though, wasn't it? Really?
Clean fun, destroyed the paintwork on your car, but
Yeah,
it didn't matter in those days.
So when you went to Shippies, did you just camp on the corner, in the corner there,
Yeah,
camp there?
Generally,
go
or
around
we
the
had
rocks a
friends
bit?
up there. We used to stay with friends.
Yeah,
As we got a bit more affluent, we stay in the
Yeah.
hotel up on the hill.
yeah.
But a lot of time just camp around at Mookie.
Yeah.
Mookareel.
I was up there at Christmas and it's still a lovely place to go, isn't it?
Right.
Now we know you've got lots of old photos. You're a bit of a photographer in the day too, did you?
I was, yeah. I had a big 600mm lens, so
Yeah.
I sort of got into that. A few of us did.
Yeah. So what sort of camera were you running with there?
Pentax.
Yeah, yeah,
In
yeah.
the old film. I wish we'd had digital back in those days.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And that
So
lens
just-
would have cost you a lot of money too.
It was worth a lot
Yeah,
in the day, yeah. We had
Yeah.
the tripod and everything. But
Yeah.
got some good photos.
Yeah.
I got to dig through them. I've lost a lot of them, and a lot of them have disappeared over the
Yeah.
years.
You should
And
write
they're
a
scattered around the
Yeah.
house.
Yeah, you should write a
So-
book about your surfing history. There'd be a book in that if you really would what
Yeah.
you've done.
I'm not old enough for memoirs yet. Like
No, but you know what I mean. You've got to start
Another
writing
10 years,
it,
mate.
writing it down in a diary before you forget, just
Yeah.
for your grandkids or whatever. So,
Yeah.
how many children have you got?
I've got 3 of my own,
Yep,
and so we're a melded family. I've got 3. Jan's got 3, which were brought up under our roof.
Yeah.
So we brought up 6 kids.
yep. So, any of them
Between
into
us.
surfing or?
Yeah, the 2 boys are surfing.
Yep, yep.
So not as. Oh, Jeremy got into it for a while, but he went
Yeah.
more into skiing. He
Yeah.
became a very good skier and snowboarder.
Yep.
Spent a lot of time up in Canada.
Oh yeah.
And,
Yep. So, is
and
this,
Mike surfs a little bit, but not a lot.
are they around here still, or are they all over the place?
Jeremy's in Auckland.
Yeah.
He's spent a lot of time, as I say, in Canada
Yeah,
and the UK,
yeah,
and now he's based in Auckland for his
Yeah.
job.
yeah,
And Michael, my youngest fella, he's over in WA.
yeah,
So I get to see him next month or month after.
yeah. So,
So I
you,
haven't seen him for a while.
are you still surfing yourself now and again?
Very occasionally.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, if the water temperature hits 28 degrees on the 23rd of February, I'll probably
You'll be out there, yeah.
Yeah.
So grandchildren or not yet?
5 kids, 5
Right.
grandkids.
Grandkids, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 2
Yeah.
boys, 3 girls.
That's brilliant. So they'll be, yeah, they know you're a pretty hot surfer in your day.
Oh,
yeah.
no,
Yeah,
that. No,
yeah.
no.
Yeah.
They'll find that out in time, maybe.
Yeah, don't forget to tell them. Well, but I think that's about all. That's
Yeah.
brilliant interview.